Hello, everybody, and welcome back to The Beats. I am your host, Kelly Kennedy, and I am very fortunate to be able to share my tribe as I travel across the globe and meet incredible scientists and doctors and all sorts of practitioners and continue to expand that tribe to help engage and encourage and empower you to learn how your body really works. Because what we know from our heart to yours is that you have all the innate wisdom inside you to heal, and that our job is naturally oriented therapists, medically enlightened doctors and specialists available here at Not Meds Global. The Beats podcast is about helping you understand that you have that power inside and what you need to do to help engage it, to constantly upregulate your ecosystem. Thank you so much for being part of our community. If this resonates with you, please go ahead and share this episode. We are always open to your comments and your questions as always. And welcome back to this week's episode of The Beats. Welcome back to The Beats with Kelly Kennedy with our dear and good friend, Alexis Saloutos. Woo! Look at that. It rolled right off my tongue this time. And we're very happy to have her back to explain the rest of the story of Chakredy and Chakras. And we ended at the heart, which was, as Alexis so beautifully put, a great place to end. Well, really not end, but until next time. So just like when we hug each other, we don't say goodbye, we say till next time. So let's have her welcomed back to our energy field and to our listening ears and our watching ears for those that are watching eyes, rather than those that are watching. And thank you so much for joining us again, Alexis, and finishing up your incredible wisdom here at The Beats.
Well, I am so happy and will take any opportunity to spend time with you, my friend. So here we are. And there's so much more goodness to cover. So we are going to dive right into the throat chakra.
Haha. I don't know why.
So I will ask you because I love to make things interactive, and I'm putting this out there to the audience as well. What do you connect with at the throat chakra level that you see in your own healing practice and community that is relevant? What surfaces, what prioritizes that you are aware of in relationship to the throat chakra?
To me personally, or my community of clients?
Just as the healing theme in your community. Or personally, but whatever.
Yeah, so I really have a struggle using my voice. Just kidding. So I did, though. Prior to all of this medicine, I did struggle to use my voice. I struggled to speak my truth. I struggled to communicate how I felt because I always ended up crying and my voice shook and I had a small voice. Mm-hmm. We're not quite sure if Ian, my husband, is excited that he helped me heal that or not. That still remains to be seen. I think there are plenty of days he's like, I'm so glad she can speak up for us. And then there are days where he's like, I wish you would just shut up. So for me, it was all about voice. It was about using my voice and speaking my truth. I find that with clients, it's a little bit of that. And it's a lot of thyroid stuff about the wishy-washiness and the inability to be clear, make decisions, as well as let go. I mean, I think about throat chakra a lot, and the thyroid in particular, in regards to the bowels and getting people to regulate, because it's your regulatory organ. So I've been doing this since I was 24, and I think I had probably a subclinical thyroid issue at the time because I had all those ovarian cysts bursting. But I feel like since I found European biological medicine, my thyroid's amazing. And I've had thyroid neural therapy done a few times.
Yeah.
And every time I do it, I'm like, I feel lots of joy and happiness and giggly. And so I think my thyroid's pretty good. And yet I find with a lot of clients that struggle with weight loss or weight gain, they just struggle with weight issues and dry skin and dry hair. Like they have so many of the clients who have toxicity, right? They have thyroid issues. And then it can often translate on an emotional level for me in regards to not being able to use their voice, being wishy-washy, not making decisions. And therein lies the majority of the client base, I would say. Is that what you're looking for, Alexis?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Bring
Good.
it. Yes. So, and that's exactly how we can tap into the potential of working with this area, is looking at how the physical and the energetic are connected, and how we can dialogue with this part of our body for further insight. So let's talk about the throat chakra. So there's so much here. And one of the things that I like to point out in the trainings, the first thing, look at the physical anatomy of the body. There's so much communicated when we can observe what is happening in the physical. So this is the most narrow point of the body, and it's located between the head and the heart. And these two energy centers have so much going on. And so there's a lot that can get kind of congested in this part of our body. And because it is the portal between the internal and the external, with regards to using the voice as a vehicle to move energy from the inside of the body, there is a lot going on here. There's a lot going on here.
Well, and the tonsils are there. I can't believe I didn't talk about the tonsils.
I know. I was going to say, my neural therapy with the tonsils was a profound experience.
And that is the one thing I probably recommend the most when clients are going to the biological dentist, or I send them down to Dr. Chakredy, our local dentist here, or local medical doctor here. And I'm like, go get your tonsils done 5 times, 10 times, just go get them done. Just go keep getting your tonsils injected. And because they're the gatekeepers to the lymph, and when I do my CRTs, I use this little graph that I make. It's not really a graph. It's a really, really horribly drawn funnel that looks like an hourglass. But the main point of the hourglass is that the throat, the tonsil point, is what decides what comes out of the head.
Yes.
And what really flows out of the body first has to be drained, and the tonsils drained in the head. So for me, this is like one of the most important areas from a drainage perspective that stays open or is opened to allow the toxicity to flow out. So I love that you said it's like the connection between the external and the internal, and what really we can process at some level, right?
Right. Yes. The drainage piece. And then looking at this as a pathway to keep open, so that, as you mentioned, toxic buildup isn't just happening and everything's getting stuck. There's movement, and that goes both ways, so that what is flowing down and being released, there's also a space created for things to rise up and move out. So that we're looking at, I'm always interested in exploring the duality, because in that duality, we can then access neutrality, and we become the mediators of our experience. So we are.
Slow that sentence down a second, Alexis. That was a lot. It was brilliant. So in the duality is the brilliance, because you find the commonality.
We're able to access neutrality.
Access neutrality through the duality, because they cancel each other out.
That's an interesting way of looking at it, that in exploring the duality, and we have access to the spectrum within that, when we explore the duality, we can access neutrality, and we become the mediator of our experience. And that goes for every energy center. We begin to mediate the various forces, the various dualities, just as we have that?
Is extremes another word for dualities?
For polarities, we could explore polarities, but even just looking at the directional aspects and the anatomical planes, if we think about the physical body, and I apply this to working with energy too, and we explore the front and the back, there's a duality right there. We've got the front and the back. Well, once we are engaged and aware of these dualities, we can work with them, and then we bring our awareness to the center. So we access that neutral space where we can optimize and really connect with the potential of the front aspect on an energetic and physical level, as well as the back. So there are all of these different dynamics. Then we have the top and the bottom. We want to engage with both of those dynamics. We don't just want to be outside of our bodies, only operating from the top. And we also don't want to be so burdened and heavy that we're only connected from the bottom. So in all of these different ways, left and right, we're engaging these directional aspects, we're engaging with the duality in order to access that neutral space. And that's where so much of the healing happens. I feel from my own experience and observations over the years is it's very powerful to connect with that awareness.
And then we mediate through that neutrality for the healing, realizing that the body is not these extremes. It's somewhere in the middle, like always, right? Flexitarian, as I call it. And to help balance out by being honest at how that is represented in our bodies, either physical, emotional, or vibrational, to see what we're present to when we're looking at this particular chakra.
Yes, that we can access the space of alignment with that awareness of how we are engaged with these various aspects. And so throat chakra being a great example of how to connect with this concept. The throat chakra, many people connect with this energy center only from the output. So what you say, what you're putting out there, how you're using your voice, are you clear in your communication? But then there's also the back aspect of this energy center, which is tied in with receptivity. Are you listening? So we're not just operating from this space of output, we're also engaging with the input. And so those are two ways to really get interested in your own experience so that you can start to center yourself and you can start to mediate these various poles and these various forces in order to be in alignment with your own self and your own truth. Truth being the primary energy of this chakra.
That's beautiful. That visual, that's so fun. And I pray that people are going to go watch this one and not just listen to it. We had a lot of feedback from part 1 of Chakredy with Alexis Saloutos. And the feedback was that people were really thirsty for this information. They really liked diving a little deeper into the chakras, as did I. And as the double Aquarian that has, I'm trying to pick the right word, not struggled, but was a bit more resistant to understanding the etherical aspect of it. You're the double Aquarian that was like leaning
I'm all in the ether, baby.
All into it. And I like to make the connection between the two for people to realize that there is this etherical body, right? Of course, but it translates down to the physical, and the physical translates back to the etherical. And I'm very visual. I know a lot of people learn auditorily. Some people learn visually, and other people learn kinetically. So I talk with my hands just for those people that learn kinetically. But if you can watch this, I think it'll help you with that visual that she just gave, because on our part A, and that was one of the questions I had, was we had a lot of etherical words, but for me, it was a little like, how do we make that tangible? How? That's really good. So all the different centers that we talked about previously and whatever their power is, you have to look at the opposite of that. So if it's using my voice, it's also listening to other people's voices and the balance of that.
Right. Yes. That there are, so from the intuition teaching that I work with, we look at directional aspects. So we look at the anatomical planes that create these dualities within the directional poles. So you've got the front and the back, you've got the top and the bottom, you've got the left and the right. And just as the physical body can be divided up into those various planes and directional aspects, so can the energy centers, so can the non-physical. And so we have energetic associations for those various directional aspects, front being output connected, back being input. So this and each holds its potential and what it can be, how it can express itself when in a place of balance or harmony, or whatever the term is that you want to use, that optimal state, that potential. And for the front, it would be action. And then it also has an imbalanced connection too. So that would be projection. So both of those are front forward energies, but one is more of that optimal expression. And then the other can communicate that there's some stuff going on here to work with. But one of the ways that I connect with that, and I'll do this visually too, is that when you're operating only from the front space and everything is about this, which is how we're conditioned. So we are conditioned to look here. And when we're only orienting ourselves to the front, we're future focused, we're very action oriented, we're only seeing what is out there in front. We're neglecting oftentimes what's happening in the back. And so the challenge then becomes to open up to activate this part of the energy and start to call in things like receptivity, allowing, all of those softening energies. And you can see this too physically expressed in the body. So this would be an example. This is very front oriented, and it's, you know, we can, if we're connecting with the back and activating the back, that's going to bring our shoulders back. And we can just see that across the physical body, which is so fascinating and so fun.
So for those that aren't watching, just so you know what she did, she curled in. She brought her shoulders in. She was protecting her heart. Her head was down. Her chin was down. It was beyond the forward head motion. And the opposite of that was chest forward, shoulders back, chin back, head back, really opening and leading with the chest and leading with the heart, to listen with our information seeker, which is our heart and our gut, more than with the physical. What are my eyes seeing? What am I hearing? What am I smelling?
Right. It's like even at the computer, and you're being drawn into the computer, what's being drawn forward? The head is. So we're stuck in that mental field, and that's an important space to be engaged with. We want to engage the intellect along with the intuition, and we're going to talk about that with the third eye chakra. But we also typically, engaging the intellect is not the challenge, because that is how we have all been taught, and we've had that reinforced. So right. We want to start to explore these other dynamics.
Awesome.
Okay.
Go ahead. But I have one question before you go ahead.
Yeah.
So do you have any recommendations, which I meant to ask last time, and we just were so deep into the rabbit hole. So are there any,
you know, I like to go there.
I know you do. Are there any affirmations, any crystals, I'm sure there's a Chakredy remedy specific for the throat that you could recommend to help balance that out?
Yes. So the throat's a big one. So the flower essence that comes to mind for the throat chakra is poppy, because it's all about liberation and freedom. And I'll speak to some of the energetic aspects that are really connected in with the throat chakra, but those being some of them. Any type of sound that you could use, you could read, or mantra. This is where we talk about all of the cool stuff about how we are creating our own reality and using the voice as a tool to carry those vibrations out. The frequencies move out from our body as we create an intention, and then our voice is such a powerful vehicle to create and to bring to life and bring through into form. It is the activator. So our voices are so powerful. And while we may hear that, I'm really talking about the energetics of your voice are so powerful. And part of my own realizations have been around how we are actually speaking things and spell casting upon ourselves through the things we say that are not actually aligned with our intention. And so beginning to explore the voice, the words that we use, and really diving into that can be a fascinating area to do some deep throat chakra work. And
so let's take an example of that. So like a client calls me and goes, you know, my endometriosis and my MS diagnosis and my Lyme diagnosis and my this and my that.
Mhm.
it's like nails on a chalkboard for me. I'm like,
Mhm.
stop speaking that if you don't want it to be true. And, one of the things that
Right.
Alexis and I did right before we started this was we have a mutual friend that's going through some stuff, and we decided to set an intention for her to help assist her in whatever way that we can, which a lot of people call prayer. And we
Mhm.
find that we are incantators. That's what we do. And I have really enjoyed getting up every morning, going for my walks and setting my intentions. And I do them out loud because what
Mhm.
I realized when we were all together, how much more powerful it felt when I did it out
Right.
loud, which is why even on our little channel of Telegram, I started doing them, out loud to everybody else, because I felt
Right.
they were much more powerful, because I missed a little of that power when it was just me. So today, as soon as we got together, I was like, okay, let's do one for our friends. Let's have some fun. And it is fun, and it should be fun.
It
But
is.
give us an example, if you would, if you have one like that, or maybe something else. But that is
Yes.
what you're talking
Yes.
about?
I love that you speak to that in relationship to health specific examples. So, how it is that we are identifying in the language that we're using, and how we are speaking about things that maybe we are working actively to release. And yet, the way that we're using the voice is incorporating them into the now, as you shared. So, identifying my this, my that. It's so fascinating. There's so many different ways to connect with this. Um, you are very, very good about bringing in the present tense and how you are speaking about what you're creating and activating it through the present tense and the now. And so that's huge. I would say on my own personal journey, one of the words that I stopped using a year and a half ago is believe, because of the energetics around that. And so to be the lie of, to believe, and energetically to believe is to attach to a construct and hold it in your energy. And so that's been an interesting personal experiment for me, because I don't be the lie of anything. And I'm curious about what am I calling into my experience, and what am I activating within my own experience, and how I'm aligned. That doesn't mean that I'm not connected, aligned, and uh, embodying various things, but I'm not holding myself to a construct that may be deceiving on some level, or maybe directing me in a way that I don't really want to go, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I mean,
So,
we had that deep conversation when we were together, and there was a lot of words that you brought my attention to that I was like, oh, wow. Yeah. Okay. Well, incension versus ascension, in Latin, ascension means away. And she was like, incension means in. And so this isn't a time of ascension. This is a time of incension. I
how
was
do we go in? How do we go inward? How do we take that deep dive inward so that we're connecting within the depths of our own being? Because that is the space that we access everything from. That's where everything is. That's where it all resides. It's not out here, it's in here. And so we're going inward. And the throat chakra invites a lot of that. And it can be, I would say, within my own community, it's the most intimidating energy center to work with, because there is a lot that can surface. And it typically is inviting us into a space where there can be a lot of uncomfortable things to heal, and where it can engage us with the outside world in that way. So having conversations, working with communication, that exchange between you and another person, as well as all of the deep aspects that are brought to life using the vehicle of the voice, and using just this energy center for expression. It's tied into expression. As I mentioned before, it's tied in with listening. And it's also the point, if we were to look at one single point and one single energy center within the body that's connected to truth, it would be the throat chakra.
like,
And also think about how this is the place where we are taking in the breath. It's coming through this energy center. And so all of the energy that we are then taking down into the heart, the lungs, this is coming through the throat first. So if I can spark some type of exciting exploration for who's listening, it is to begin connecting with the body, the various systems of the body, the anatomy of the body, looking at what the body does, what do these systems do, and then start to look at the energetics of how those are connected. How can you connect with the respiratory system, for example, or the lymphatic system? Let's use that because that is your point of focus, and the tonsils and all of these different things. But there's so much happening here, and you can start to explore, well, how does that connect for me on an energetic level? What does it mean to taking in oxygen, taking in breath, basically connecting in with our own vitality and our own essence? We need to breathe to live. So that's coming through the throat.
It's, I mean, okay, we're going to have to do 3 more podcasts to get through this, but
I know. Let's just say, yeah.
it resonates with me so hard thinking about all the books that I've ever read, including the Bible, where, you know, the word is the truth. The word is what it is, right? The word, to be so impeccable with your word. Well, impeccable with your word is one of the 4 agreements. And then Think and Grow Rich. These are some of the most successful, some of the most popular books ever written on success. The Bible, ever hear of it? Think and Grow Rich, ever hear of it? And Think and Grow Rich, understand that the principles, that book is based upon the laws and principles of success. It does not mean monetary necessarily. It means rich in your life and your vitality and every aspect of your life. And then the 4 agreements, which I believe is one of the most well-written books about relationships, because it starts with your relationship with yourself. And one of the 4 rules is impeccable with your words. Think and Grow Rich. The very first chapter is thoughts become things. And in the Bible, I must use an unchoice finger for the Bible. The Bible is about, you know, I don't know the exact words because I only went to Catholic school for 9 years and don't remember such things, but it's like something about, you know, the word, and so it is. And we say this at the end of every one of our affirmation circles is, and so it is. We speak it. And therefore it is. And he breathed life into us. It also says that in the Bible. You cannot live without breath. And Ein and I talk about this all the time. The only difference between me here now and me dead laying on the ground is the breath. That's it.
Right. The breath connects the spirit.
And you can only not breathe for 3 minutes. You can go without food for days, weeks. You can go without water for days, weeks. You cannot go without breath
point of connection. It's a point of connection between the ether and the physical body, truly.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you. Say that again. Say that again.
Yes. The breath is the point between the ether and the physical body. And so how important is this part of your body? What is happening at this part of your body? And is there anything that feels relevant to you that may be an area of challenge that is connected with this part of the body? And that could be expressed through the tonsils, the thyroid being the organ energy that's connected here at the throat, and then also the teeth. And we can look at, you know, this kind of goes into as well the ears. It starts to, which is split between the third eye and the throat. But just look at the neck. There's so much just within this really narrow part of the body. And there's so much healing potential to tap into here. And it requires a lot of courage. There's a very, very powerful connection between the throat chakra and the sacral. And courage being an energy that's tied into the sacral, and truth being a primary energy of the throat chakra. And so in order to really be connected and embodied within your own self and aligned with your own individual truths, that requires a lot of deep access into that sacral chakra for courage and trust. And so everybody's connected. There are certain relationships can be very powerful to explore when on your own healing journey. So a lot going on, so much exciting stuff to work with. And I also do want to speak to some of the things that surface for people who are highly sensitive and highly intuitive in this part of their body, because throat chakra intuition is big. And you spoke some of the intuitive indicators to throat chakra when we started this call. And that was, do you remember what they were?
No.
Okay.
Was I conscious of that? Did I say that?
I don't know. There are so many, but from my perspective, anything that is happening, any type of sensation that is happening at this part of the body potentially holds intuitive information. So if you feel like there's a tightness, there's a gripping, there is inflammation, there's pain, there's swelling, there's any type of sensation. But then we can also have the voice as a barometer too. If your voice starts to shake when you speak, or you feel like you can't access the words clearly. One example would be when someone is open and receptive to what it is you have to share, how everything just may flow really easily. It's effortless to communicate what it is that you are feeling in your heart, and to communicate what it is that you are holding in your head, and to bring those two together and express them clearly when you feel that there is that receptivity on the other side. When an exchange is not so clear, then what can happen is it may be challenging to access that clarity, and suddenly something that you've spoken maybe in the past that has been effortless for you to another person becomes very challenging, and it's hard to access the words. They're not coming out clearly. Maybe your voice starts to crack a little bit or just get shaky, and that can actually communicate to you something about the dynamics of the exchange. So it's not just you having a hard time expressing yourself. It can actually be this part of your energy that's picking up on something within that exchange, and you're being shown that something is not clear. And so we can use all of these little bits and pieces of sensation and impressions to impact the way in which we are dialoguing with our intuition.
I now remembered after you reminded me. And I mean, I think that is so powerful for people to understand that it's not just them, it's a co-creation for everything we do, and that we're all receivers and we're signal receivers and signal givers.
Mm-hmm.
And so that sometimes when your voice is shaking or it's not flowing, it's because the recipient, you're feeling some blockade, some resistance they may have. And I've been very blessed on my podcast. I don't know how many podcasts we're at this point, but I really feel blessed that I feel like I'm always in the flow state. I mean, most of these people are my friends and my colleagues or mentors. And I am just so excited about getting this information out there and for people to be receptive of it, that I literally forget everything else that's going on. I often disregard time, and I disregard all sorts of things because I just really get in that flow state. And I think I'm blessed, and I've also worked for it. Oh no, I'm not blessed. That's one of her words. Be blessed. I'm not be blessed. Nope. Can't say that word anymore. I am grateful that I have one of the greatest. I mean, I feel so on board with my mission. I'm 100% in. I'm actually thinking about going full time. And it's a little joke. And I really know that when it does not, like, you don't have to be in the flow state sitting in meditation.
Right.
You know, Michael Jordan, and I'm aging myself, but Michael Jordan playing basketball was in the flow state, right? There are athletes, there are actors, there are electricians and accountants, and every single chef, everything across the board, janitors and sewage workers and trash people, that all live in the flow because this is what their truth is, and how they're just flowing with it. There's no resistance, and that's living your truth. And if you feel resistance, in something going on, and it's repetitive. It's not just when you have that one conversation with Alexis and she makes you uncomfortable, but it's when I have that same conversation with Alexis
every time.
as I have with Kelly, as I have with Sally Joe, and so on and so forth, that maybe that's not my truth. And that's what we're trying to help you understand, that nothing, like when my voice, I was talking to somebody earlier and I literally like grasped for, like, my voice didn't come out, and we both looked at each other and we go, well, obviously there's a problem there. Like, it's all happening. It's your communication is key, and there's verbals and nonverbals. And I have never really thought about the throat chakra as much as I have today. And I'm going to pay way more attention to everybody's throat chakra, mine included.
There's so much here, and there's so much to tap into as far as an energy center that holds so much to be about your own intuitive capacity, and connect in with the flow state as creator beings, and being tapped into that place of creative flow, whatever that means for each person, and say that, well, when you're in that space, then the external isn't really holding the same influences if you weren't centered and aligned and energy moving through clearly. And what I want to really reinforce through all of this information is that when we are connecting with intuitive indicators, or with the impressions and the sensations that could be subtle or pronounced across the energy centers that take us out of that place of alignment, they create discomfort, that is information to work with. And so as you are connecting with that information, and that information is providing you feedback and insight about how you're managing your own energy, then you have the opportunity to shift that, so that there's less of the projection, or going into spaces where maybe you are putting a lot of your own energetic anticipation into how somebody receives what it is you are sharing. So there are just so many ways to experience that intuitive feedback, to then inform yourself and shift within yourself how it is that you are managing your own energy. So throat chakra intuitives, intuition at the throat chakra level, and when you find yourself really tapped into this ability, it is going to, here's an interesting piece, when you're highly sensitive at the center, it is easy for others to see the truth in your response, which can be frustrating for you at times because maybe you feel too transparent. So there can be a lot of discomfort, crying easily when you're in situations where, and again, different dynamics, maybe you feel like energy is pulled out for you. Have you ever had the experience where you've overshared, or you feel like with a specific person that you, yeah. Am I always oversharing? No.
Alexis and I overshare a lot.
Well, we're double Aquarian spirit sisters, so there's that.
But I felt that my onion cough.
If you feel the pull, if you feel like there's almost like getting access and pulling information out from a dynamic that doesn't feel like there is an equal exchange. It doesn't feel aligned and clear. And so that can be another indicator. So just start paying attention to sensations, and then also voice fluctuations. If you find yourself censoring what it is you say in certain environments, or whatever it is, and shyness, anything with the voice that's going to highlight that energy center for you.
Awesome. And my husband would comment that yelling, Kelly, is
yes,
about your throat chakra, that how loud I am and how loud so many of my friends are. And I am much less loud than I used to be. And I think that stems from, all the work that I've done, not being heard as a child. Mm-hmm. And so now that I know that I have my voice, I find it very interesting. I've had a lot of situations in the last 2 weeks that have really reinforced how much I have changed, and how much I no longer need to yell, that actually whispering is fully loud. Yes.
Yes. So There's so many incredible ways to harness your intuitive ability at this energy center and start to invite that information forward so that you are engaged in active dialogue with this part of your body, and simply asking the question, what does my throat chakra have to share with me today? And you'll be pretty surprised that you will likely get an immediate answer, whether that's through a knowing, or you get some type of visual or experience some type of sensation. That oftentimes, because it's all there, it's just a matter of connecting and beginning this process of inquiry and asking the question. So that's a question that you can ask. What does this energy center have to share with me today?
And what color is that energy center?
This is connected in with blue.
Okay, cool.
Yes.
All right, so we have 30 minutes to tackle the next two. Let's see.
Are you ready for me to crank this out? Okay, here we go, people. So let's talk about the chakra. This is the energy center that most people would associate with being the house of intuition. And I refer to it oftentimes as the psychic house. So the psychic house, this is located between the brows, and it's housing the intellect and then all of these various aspects of our intuitive abilities. So this is where you receive auditory information. This is where you're going to get those intuitive visuals. This is where you experience that immediate knowing. So there are some pretty intense intuitive energies at this part of your body. And they're also right there with the brain. And so we've got the magic mind, we've got the brain, we've got a lot going on here. And so we want to begin to engage with this part of our body and this energy center from a place of curiosity. I'll bring it back to the directional aspects. One great way to know if you are operating from the mind, if you're operating from the intellect specifically, and you want to engage the intuition, this part of the body can get really activated, and you may start to feel your energy getting very fixed. So a fixed focus, like you're just really dialing in and starting to then get into these thought loops. That can be a great way of recognizing that your intellect is in the lead. Okay. When you are in what you would refer to, Kelly, as a flow state, you are engaging in that intuitive energy. And so your energy is more activating the sides, the back, and that's where a lot of that flow comes through, where we can then receive that intuitive information. And some of the other pieces that are really important to work with here at the third eye are discernment. We can look at discernment at every energy center, because each energy center has the ability to discern through its own aspects and its own lens. However, the third eye chakra and I don't know if I can pick one. It's an important one. It's an important one to work with. Also, intuitive information in the form of dreams. This is also connected in with the third eye chakra. So we have a lot of different pushes and pulls that can be happening here. I do have, and I'm happy to share this with your community, something on my website that is the energetic difference between intuition and intellect, so that you can start to connect with some of those specific ways in which each communicate, so that you can identify which one is in the lead. So we want to engage that intuition.
So it's really funny. I realized, for years, people have asked Ayn and I what we are, what we do, how to describe what it is we do, because we don't have letters behind our names. And I do now. I have a massage license, but we were pastors, and we were, I don't know, We're just people that love people that like to help them, right? And then about, I don't know, 3 or 4 years ago, I came up with this little term of medical intuitive biological investigator. And I used to say that Ian's more intuitive and I'm more investigative, but I really find that we have a good balance of both. Yeah. I'm realizing now that it's all about the third eye. It's the intellect and the intuition, that we balance them.
Yes.
That in the
both engaged.
In the beginning, I think we were both like, he was more intuitive and I was investigative. And over the years, as you do with your partners, you just kind of meld into one person. That being said, I actually don't know what Ian says in the room, and he doesn't know what I say in the room. And a lot of people think that we do, that we know exactly what the other one is saying all the time. I will say that we're very connected.
Yes.
But that's really interesting. Like, I really find that interesting that I didn't give conscious in that before, that it's the intellect and the intuition together that come from here. I've really only ever thought of it as the intellect. I mean, as the intuition, rather, never as the intellect. Mm-hmm. I mean, why? What in our world, even in Eastern philosophy where you study chakras, has that been lost?
So much has been suppressed and withheld, and we are reclaiming that. And even if it's not directly passed down, we're reconnecting with it through the ether, because there is that knowing and there's that remembering process where we are bringing back the pieces to remember that we are whole. And so the return movement and the return journey inward is really a reclaiming of wholeness, to be spirit embodied in the physical. And so this is where everything merges. We must do the spiritual work in the physical body, and there's no way around that. So your body's going to tell you over and over again, you got to bring it in. You've got to bring your awareness to the physical to work the spiritual through that place, because we are here in these bodies, and it can be so intense. So
our level of consciousness is really what you're speaking to, correct? And one of our great friends, Dr. Fred DiDomenico, he said, and I've repeated many times since he said it, really our only problem in life is your level of consciousness. That's really your only problem. You think you have a myriad of problems, and you don't. You just have one, and it's your level of consciousness. And for a while in the beginning, that becomes your biggest problem, is your level of consciousness, because you're like, shit, I created all this. Oop, that's the first time I ever swore on my podcast. Bleep, bleep, bleep.
I love that it was with me.
Of course it was.
After talking about the throat chakra.
Yeah, and it wasn't a very, for me, that's pretty light curse. But anyway, yeah, that's really, really good and really important. As you say, they're all important. And the reality is that what we're trying to impart upon you is just to have a consciousness over these energy fields and over these energy centers, rather, the 7 main energy centers. I wanted to make sure that we were talking about there really are 114, that we're only talking about the same.
We're covering all of them today. No.
The 7. Sit down and take notes. You'll be here for 14 hours. And the level of consciousness is really the key. And you know, wherever you're at, wherever you start with this information is awesome and welcome. And if this is high level for you because you've been studying chakras forever and you're like, oh my gosh, Alexis really knows what she's talking about, you can go work with her. If you're more like me, that like, I know I need to understand more about the chakras, and I know I've worked with them, and I know a smidge, then know that she's here, we're here as your resource to begin that journey for you to start to have even more consciousness about these centers. Like, I feel like after talking to you last week versus this week, I'm like, well, yeah, I've done a lot on the sacral, the root, and the solar plexus and the heart, but have I really given a lot of thought to up? And, you know, that's where my level of consciousness can shift. And so now I have more information and more awareness about the throat and the third eye, intellect, intuition chakra. So this is very fascinating stuff. Very, very good stuff.
It's so fun. And I'm just going to keep cranking it out.
Crank it out, baby.
Okay. So So when you are third eye chakra dominant, then you receive intuitive information through that immediate knowing, through visuals, through auditory, through your mind's eye. So you're getting all of that information coming through there. And this is where the intellect can start to interfere, because it may begin to process that information before it's fully come through and formed. So the more that you can practice activating the back and receptivity, the more that provides the space for intuitive information to flow. So third eye chakra dominant is very popular for highly intellectual people as well, because this energy center is just very activated and very busy. Okay. Crown chakra. Oh, and third eye is connected to the pituitary. And we're moving into, even though the pineal, which is here, is tied into the crown chakra, which is where we're at now. So the crown chakra, this is the fun stuff. This is fun. For the ethereal double Aquarian, this is this is the fun stuff. So this is our point of connection. I love it. I love all of you got your spirit quartz activating that crown chakra. So this is our point of connection to creation, to source, to God, to the divine, to spirit. And here is our channel in that relationship to receive that inspiration, to receive. I've even started to think about the word divine as in divine, as in separation.
Divide. Yeah.
So in accessing and intentionally connecting and cultivating that relationship at the crown chakra, one thing that I would like to really put out there is the awareness of how you're connecting up. So we want to be directly in communication ourselves. We're not doing any crown chakra deviations. We're not doing any bypassing. This is where the ego can get really involved. And so we have that dynamic to also be aware of at the crown chakra. It's connected in with purpose, with guidance, connection, faith. And this is really important in all of your energetic awareness work, because as you are bringing through that inspiration into physical form, it's coming through here first. It's working its way down. So we have that divine inspiration that works its way down into the physical through the root before it manifests into form.
So I want to talk about this divergence of crown chakras, because when we first started talking about this, when we were on our last trip together, you had commented about somebody that, and it was like the first day, really only the second day I'd ever met you. And we really had a lot of time together and you were talking about a particular person, and that when I met her, I would see that her crown chakra was diverged a little bit. And we were on a walk, and I thought to myself, what the heck is she talking about? How does she see that? I don't understand. And then I met this person, and I literally came to you and was like, I totally know what you mean now. I totally understand it. And then we started to talk about it, and I really it's really important. And the circuit or whatever, the internet broke up a little bit because she's in Washington having this huge windstorm right now. But when, the crown chakra is about, you said, your passion, your guidance, your mission, your knowledge that you're tapping into, universal knowledge, and you're grasping what's true for you and your path and your journey. And can you explain this divergence from that perspective, what that might look like for people that aren't familiar with it, instead of speaking so etherical as my friend Alexis loves to?
I'm so glad you brought it up. And I'm like, wait a second, what did I say? And I don't remember, because I'm so present that I'm just not even connecting with, I'm so in the moment, Kelly. So crown chakra deviation is a term that I use to communicate when you are not directly accessing guidance through your own clear channel. So there's some type of deviation to, and I can use some different examples for this. to access information potentially through another person, or your energy starts to shift into ego. One example would be a lot of very gifted people who go into the healing realm with very solid, clear intentions, maybe come into contact with that power energy of people turning their energy over to them and give me the guidance, give me the answers. And what can happen with that I've observed over the years is suddenly that crown chakra connection starts to deviate a bit, and the information that is accessed starts to come through the ego, which has a completely different energy to it, because there is an attachment to lots of different things. And you can really tap into that when you start to observe the origin or the essence of that energy and that connection. So we all have the ego dynamics to work with, whether it's within ourselves and also when we're coming into contact with that. And so we just want to be aware of that connection. And if you start to feel it's easier to observe that within others than it is within yourself. So that's a great starting point, is just to see, okay, well, are you sensing that maybe somebody isn't really connecting clearly up within their own, and I'll use the big word that's so important here, their own sovereign connection to spirit, because that is through their individual connection, through their own individual body, their own individual energy. It's not through somebody else's. It's not, connecting in with other energies, because there are a lot of opportunistic energies that can start to take shots at the crown chakra. And so we want to be aware of that.
I want to throw myself on the sword here for this one, because I think this will help people understand, and perhaps will extend as an apology to anybody that I've ever done this to. About 3 years ago, I was talking to a client, a young woman who I really was connected to. I really liked her as a person. I thought she was a brilliant person. She was dealing with some very devastating illness, and she had overcome that in a lot of ways. And we just stayed connected and had some friendly conversations. And I was going through something with her over the phone, and I was going through some issues at the office with clients and different things. And I said, can I ask your perspective as a client? Like, why does this occur in our office? God bless her. Sarah G says to me, she says, well, are you ready for me to be honest? I was like, oh, I mean, I've been bluntly honest with you for 2-3 years. I would hope so. And never had anybody emotionally slapped me as hard as she did that day, and shook me to my core and shook my ego right out of me. I mean, maybe not 100%. That would be my goal, but shook my ego from a healthcare practitioner. I think of what you're just speaking for. So what she said was, when I got better, when I first came in, you said, oh, your body can heal, your body can heal, your body's here to heal. And all we're here to do is help you get it to heal and remove the blockades and upregulate your ecosystem. And you have control, and you can do the work, and you are doing this. And as soon as I got better, you took credit for all the work you did on me.
Wow.
And I was like, okay, I suck. Sorry I did that. Wow. Because I was very aware that it was nothing I ever did. It was holding the space for her, allowing her to speak her truth and speak it to others, and root in her root chakra, and take the right supplements and open her lymph, and all the things that she did on every single level. But the reality was I didn't do any of it. I guided her. She did the emotional, physical, and vibrational work, and her body healed. And I have been so present to that since she called me out on that, to ensure that people really understand it's not me. I'm just a vessel. And I'm blown away since that day how many times I'm with a client or on a call or whatever, and I'll just say something. And there's a part of me that's like, I have no idea where that came from. I don't know why I said that. And they're like, oh my gosh, that like really resonates with me. And I was like, well, it wasn't me. because now I'm very present to the fact that it was not me. It was just me being open to that universal knowledge, that sovereign knowledge, that sovereign capacity to have a knowing when you're truly heart-centered with that other person, and being able to reflect back to them what they really need in their healing, that we're just here standing here as like this ability to allow it happening through us. And I will always be eternally grateful to her for that. And I hope that that story helps some people realize what we're talking about. You know, there's no, even the docs that are saving lives with anesthesia and thoracic cardiovascular surgery that are taking hearts out of their hands and operating, there's still a piece of even their brilliance, that there are things that happen in a surgical room that they cannot explain where that came from, how to do that. You know, that is the beauty of being open vessels, rather than I'm going to go in and fix that heart because I'm the magic person, or I'm going to fix that body who has lymph stagnancy because I'm the magic lymph queen. No way. I just have knowledge and have receptivity to what you might need to really let go in the lymphatic world, both on the physical and emotional level. So I hope that story helps some people out there. And if you know Sarah, tell her I said I love her forever and thank you. I'll make sure she listens to this episode.
That's a really powerful share, and I'm so glad you spoke to exactly the word that I was going to use that can be an indicator of this, which is fixing. So if we're coming from that space of feeling like we're going in to fix somebody's problems, somebody's issues, somebody's illness, then that is implying on an energetic level that it's you as an individual doing that something to another person to heal. And as you said, and what resonates with me is, and how I feel connected with the Chakredy work, and every time that I take practitioners through the Chakredy trainings, every time I'm connecting in with this work to work with others on a healing level, I feel that I am showing up as my own sovereign self to be connected with this healing energy and to create that space in whatever capacity I can to then invite that person into their own sovereign connection. And that my place as a guide is really always rooted in directing and connecting people back to themselves, because that is where the healing happens. It's not taking ownership of someone else's healing process. And so that's very disempowering, and it's just simply not true. So
right.
It's just not the way that it works. And we can all be different pieces within a puzzle that may provide insight and information, but we can never take ownership of another person's healing and another person's experience. And so as we stand in our own direct, clear crown chakra connection to source energy, to creation, we are embodied fully. And within that embodiment, we create a healing field. And that is only amplified and reinforced and fortified in connection to others. So we strengthen the field as we come together in our own individual sovereign connection. And that's so important.
I mic drop for those who didn't see it. I mean, that's the Beats with Kelly Kennedy's purpose, is for people to understand that we have this amazing power inside of us that heals us. And as practitioners, we truly are honored.
So honored. It's the greatest honor to be in that space and to be trusted in that deep way by another person on their own healing journey. And so it's just such a beautiful gift. And we're so excited.
And to watch them evolve to the point where they know that they did it. Like, the best part of that story for me wasn't that she slapped me down, it was that she built herself up. That she knew, regardless of my ego, that she did that and that
She
she was
claimed that for
willing,
herself.
and she was willing to call me out on it for herself, as well as for others and for my own healing. And I just pray that anybody that's ever gone through any healing crisis is on the other side of it. Stake your claim to what you did for your body to open yourself up, and do not give the credit away to others. Yet, as practitioners, we must always give the credit where the credit is due, and that is to the innate intelligence and to the heart. And I always like to give credit to those that I learn from and those that I find so much inspiration, as Alexis has given me in so many ways since I've met her, and continue to know that as I work through my life and I incorporate more Chakredy, I know and will always know and always give reverence to the fact that she was the open vessel that was willing to give me that information. I was willing to receive it, yet I will always be grateful and thankful for her bringing this to our community and clarifying these very beautiful main 7 chakras.
Yeah, these main 7 chakras. And that this really is, you'd asked me on the last episode, what's the secret? And I was like, should have thought about this. I don't know. And then what was coming through today before our call was just how by accessing this insight within ourselves, we self-liberate. We free ourselves from the things that bind us to various states of imprisonment. And when you are clear in your own ability to perceive what is resonant and what is not, you can't be manipulated, you can't be controlled, you can't be deceived, because you are clear within yourself of what resonates as truth. And we have that ability across all of the energy centers. And so I hope that by sharing this information, it's gotten you excited about how much you already have access to within yourself, and that you begin your own journey to get out there and put these tools to practice so that you can do the fun detective work. You become the investigator, the chakra detective. Chakra Detective, a new show. It's just so fun. It's so fun.
Well, you're so fun. And thank you for another glorious hour of your time, as the busy lady you are, with family and businesses and all sorts of things that you're always doing. And we really, you know how much I love you, and our community loves you. And I'm sure this will not be the last podcast you do. And I'm thinking we need to do some kind of masterclass or something together.
Do a series together. I know.
Let's do that.
And yes, there's so much to do. There's so much to collaborate on.
So many fun things to bring you all to help you become your chakra detective.
Chakra Detective series. Go and investigate. And,
I love it.
Working through the lymph at all the different energy centers. That would be powerful.
That really would. I think that's a great idea. And we can talk about certain nodes and what they mean on it energetically, emotionally. And there's just so much.
Get that flow cream out.
Get the flow cream out, the lymph flow cream. We're so excited. Yes, and thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you all for listening. If this resonated with you, please share this and give us some comments. We love the comments, and I love to share the comments with our speakers, because, people like Alexis and myself are beginning this world out there in this digital platform. And we love to know what works, what resonates, what you want more of. And the more we know that, the more we can cater to what you are all looking for, because that is our mission, is to help educate you with all the secrets that we've learned to help empower you to use your own heart healing and engage that autonomic nervous system. So thank you all for listening. Thank you for spending your time with us. And thank you once again, Alexis, for being a part of the Beats.
Thank you, everyone.
Hello, and thank you so much for joining us and spending your time here with us at the Beats with your host, Kelly Kennedy. And I know today more than ever before, you now know better how your body works. And at the very least, we hope we've helped you raise some questions and help you continue to investigate. We are here to help you naturally optimize a better version and vision of yourself on every single level. And after today, you can better engage your innate intelligence and allow for proper regulation and proper regeneration. Make sure to subscribe to never miss a beat again. We hope you've enjoyed this week's episode. And just a reminder that this podcast is for educational purposes only. This podcast is not a substitute for medical advice or professional advice and care by your doctor or other qualified medical professionals. This podcast is created with the intention to provide information and education. This podcast is created with the understanding that it does not constitute professional advice or medical services. If you are looking for help in your journey and seek a qualified medical practitioner, or if you're looking for a biological, not meds practitioner, we can help you. Someone who's trained and a licensed health coach and someone that can help you make changes, especially when it comes to your health. That's what Not Meds mission is about. I hope you have enjoyed listening again to this podcast. It's one of my favorite things to do. And if you do, please feel free to share it with your friends, your colleagues, for the tips of living the biological foundational life and living in the flow. And if you have been listening and love the show, please do leave comments. We love reading your comments. We really do. And you can subscribe to us wherever you hear your podcast. Thank you so much from our heart to yours.